In this try it exercise, we're looking at simplifying square roots involving variables that are being taken to an even power. When we simplify this, if we end up with a value, we're looking for perfect squares still. So we want to see what is something that we can square that gets whatever's under the radical. Now, if it's something being squared, or something that's being taken to an even power that is being squared, we don't need the absolute value because something squared is always going to be positive, and we can take the square root of a positive value. If it's not, we don't know if the variable is positive or negative, then we have to take the absolute value if it has an odd power. So in other words, what we want to recognize with this first one, part A, the square root of y to the 18th, we need to recognize y to the what squared equals y to the 18th. Well, when we take a power to a power, we multiply, so we want to know what's 18 divided by 2. That's 9. We need to recognize y to the 9th squared equals y to the 18th. So in other words, the square root of y to the 18th equals the square root of y to the 9th squared. Now we have we're squaring it. We have a perfect square. It's y to the 9th squared equals y to the 18th. But when we take the square root, that's an odd exponent, y to the 9th. So that means that we have to take the absolute value. The square root of y to the 9th squared equals the absolute value of y to the 9th. And again, that's because if y were negative, well, we wouldn't be able to take the square root. So we have to be taking the square root of something that we know is positive, so we have to take the absolute value because absolute values are positive. Now with z to the 12th, what we want to recognize is that that is z to the 6th squared. That equals z to the 12th. So in other words, the square root of z to the 12th equals the square root of z to the 6th squared. Now in this case, the exponent on the variable that's being squared is even. Well, since z to the 6th, z to anything that is an even power is going to be positive, we don't need the absolute value. So the square root of z to the 6th squared, or the square root of z to the 12th, is simply z to the 6th.